In the early hours of September 26, 1983, deep beneath the Soviet Union, the world was quiet, sealed away inside concrete walls and humming machines, until warning systems designed to detect nuclear war suddenly came alive. Red lights flashed, screens filled with data, and alarms signaled what should have been impossible: an incoming nuclear attack from the United States. At the center of the command bunker stood Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov, staring at displays that claimed American missiles were already racing towards Soviet territory. According to protocol, there were only minutes to respond, and one phone call could unleash a retaliation powerful enough to end human civilization. Across the Soviet Union, missile silos stood ready, their weapons locked and waiting, while across the ocean, American nuclear forces mirrored the same readiness. Both sides possessed arsenals capable of destroying entire cities in seconds, built not for defense, but for instant response. Above the planet, early warning satellites scanned the Earth's horizon, searching for flashes of light that would signal the start of war. As Cold War tensions, fueled by years of mistrust, military buildup, and fear, reached their most fragile point, all while millions of people slept, unaware of how close the world was to catastrophe. Inside the bunker, Petrov studied the data in silence, as the weight of responsibility settled heavily on him. The system insisted the attack was real. 5 missiles had been launched. Officers stood behind him, waiting for orders, trained to follow procedure without hesitation. The black military phone sat within reach, its presence looming larger than anything on the screens. Time pressed forward relentlessly, yet something felt wrong. The missile trajectories appeared too perfect, too clean. Petrov noticed subtle delays in detection timing, inconsistencies that the automated system ignored. Then another detail stood out: only 5 missiles. A real first strike would have involved hundreds, not a handful. Ground-based radar stations showed nothing at all, their screens empty, contradicting the satellite data. Still, the clock continued to tick toward the predicted impact window, and the red warning lights pulsed again and again, demanding belief. The room remained frozen, officers statuesque, breathing barely visible. In those moments, Petrov remembered his training, not as rigid rules, but as lessons meant to be questioned. He understood that the system had never been tested in real conditions, that it could be wrong, and that trusting it blindly could mean the end of everything. Slowly, deliberately, Petrov stood up, breaking the stillness. Console warnings intensified, data stacking higher, as if the machine itself were insisting on obedience. But Petrov chose doubt over automation. Calmly, firmly, he declared the alert a false alarm. The red lights abruptly shut off, plunging the bunker into an eerie, unfinished quiet. The clock kept ticking anyway. Everyone waited. No explosions appeared on the satellite displays. Ground radar remained clear. Minutes passed, and the world did not end. Petrov exhaled, his shoulders dropping slightly, not in triumph, but in exhaustion. As dawn broke over the Soviet countryside, soft golden light replaced the tension of the night. Radar screens glowed steady green. Calm returned. Later, engineers would discover the cause. Sunlight reflecting off high-altitude clouds had fooled the satellite sensors into seeing missile launches that never existed. The explanation was clinical, technical, and far removed from the terror it had caused. Inside the bunker, Petrov sat alone at his desk, drained, surrounded by empty chairs. Official paperwork was stamped and filed, the incident marked simply as an error. Petrov walked out into daylight, squinting slightly as his eyes adjusted, blending back into a world that continued on unchanged, unaware of how close it had come to destruction. Yet had he trusted the machine instead of his judgment, the outcome would have been very different. Nuclear detonations would have lit the skies above cities, firestorms and shockwaves would have erased millions of lives in moments, and a chain reaction of retaliation would have scarred the Earth beyond recognition. Instead, cities remained standing, people slept peacefully, and history continued forward. The world survived not because systems worked perfectly, but because one man chose not to believe them.